meeting. And it's May 11th, 6 p.m. And so we'll go to special presentations under announcements. Do we have any at this time, Mr. Ledbetter?
No, we do not.
Okay. Okay, and we'll go to public comments. Public participation is welcomed and invited at all city council meetings. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concern an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the city council when that item is open for public comment. The city requests that persons addressing the city council refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, and disruptive remarks. Council members and recognized by the mayor may ask questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during public comment section of the meeting under the Brown Act. The city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the posted agenda. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concerns an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. Please speak into the microphone from the podium. The podium electronically adjust up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the council as a whole. If you have documents to present, please provide a minimum of 7 copies. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Public comments period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with the council or city staff. And I forgot to remind everybody to silence their cell phones. I'm sorry. So we can silence your cell phone. So any public comments at this time before we jump into the meeting? All right. So we'll close public comment, and then I'm going to turn over to Councilman Baker. She's going to share the meeting and run it from here. And Councilman Baker.
Thank you. This is item number 5 under new business, city manager overview of current communications mediums, tools, processes that we currently have in place. So at this time, I'll just turn it over to you, Mr. Ledbetter.
All right, thank you, Council Member Baker. And so I just wanted to advise everybody here tonight that this is going to be relatively informal, and we will look for your guidance on how you'd like to see these future meetings take place. We have listed a multitude of current services that we utilize to communicate with the public, and we thought that we would just start there as a refresher on what we currently have available. And if you choose or want to jump around this list or spend more time on this list or see any of these examples, Retta Hogan, Assistant City Manager Hogan, can bring these up on the screen. And so first and foremost, we kind of asked staff to let us know what services were being provided. And so the first one, translation services, is just in reference to really our planning department and mostly our general plan, that there are some mandates that we need to meet, and we are currently working on meeting those. Primarily for us, I believe it's Spanish translation services for a lot of the stuff that we do around the general plan. And so communication is extremely broad, so we can go in any number of directions. So any guidance you guys can give us tonight on what you're looking for, I believe I know what you're looking for, but it'd just be very helpful to better understand what the end goal is. But Retta, if you have the email from Juliana and can pull up that Citizen Lab site, I think we can start there. So what we're going to see is, I believe is the REAP 2.0, formerly the SB2 monies that come in for the planning department. We have committed to utilizing a new software when it comes to the general plan and just general communication with the public. This software, and what we're going to see is an example that another agency is utilizing the similar software or the same software. And you're capable of surveying the public. So if you have a project or you have an idea or you have a direction or you have a topic that you want, this automatically can populate a survey and you can engage the community in that fashion. And also it's a very great site for project management and communication over public works or larger capital improvement projects. So we'll just wait for Ms. Hogan to pull this site up. But maybe while we wait, we can kind of discuss how the two council members kind of came to this conclusion and what the desire might be for the end result of these multitude of meetings. My personal take is I believe that the community might lack awareness over the multitude of projects that the city is currently working on. And that ultimately possibly creating some 90-second to 180-second vignette videos that kind of go over what the project entails, what the timeline of the project is, what the diagrams look like or the schematics look like for the project, and having that available on our website that then we could hit the grapevine or Facebook with, seems to be something that I believe would probably rectify the biggest issue when it comes to communication. But communication is very broad. And so also it engages hypothetically ADA compliance. I think we've kind of talked about this behind the scenes. So I'm not sure what direction you guys want to go, but I believe it's more in tune with the first description I had. But if you guys can kind of help me out with your guys' perspectives, that would be very helpful.
Well, Mr. Ledbetter, the goal of this when we're finished is that we never hear, I didn't know about that. Yeah. Yeah.
So I agree. I think then we're on the same page in my opinion. And so if you'll see up on the screen, so this is Citizen Lab, and what site, where are we in the Wichita, Kansas? And
Wichita, Kansas.
If we can just go down to what are they explaining on that first or one of these first slides here? Are they surveying?
So here they're sharing the vision for the future, and here's some, we're gonna go into a project. So let's go into the K9 dog park. It's finished, so should have all the elements to it. And so it kind of goes through the phases of the project here. They're going to improve their dog park, and they have a little video embedded in it to kind of pull you in. They are gathering feedback in the phases of what works well, what would make your experience to engage the public. And then they had some sessions on that. So that's a very simple kind of project. We'll go to a more complex one here.
Yeah, can you go to maybe a survey as well of a project that has yet to start?
Okay.
If you can find one on there.
And Yreka currently has this software.
Yeah, the city has just purchased this software with the REAP 2.0 funding, I believe is what was authorized for this type of engagement software. So this is now a new tool that we will roll out primarily for general plan, but with the opportunity to probably put public works projects on here as well. And so surveying the community over topics, any topic you can possibly imagine. You know, if you want an answer as a city council member to what the pulse of the community is thinking over a specified issue, this would be a way that we can just constantly have surveys available. And I believe when I looked around on this site, they had some surveys currently going.
This is kind of one, I just wanted to call into this where you kind of have phases where you're expressing thoughts, ideas, to share your thoughts and ideas, and compiling feedback and moving forward in their events when they're happening. And I'll still try to find the survey one here, Jason, but this one, I like This one shows all the project phases. You would kind of have a linear trend where you are on those phases of the project.
Yeah, we think this would be really good to kind of showcase to the public as well, the conception of a project to the completion of a project, and holding all of that information on one site so that people can retroactively go back and see the feedback that was given from the beginning when the community gave input on a specified project to the completion of a finished project.
Survey.
Yeah, these right here, I think you see those, right? We'll go down a little bit, those comments.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it almost acts like, you know, a social media platform where you have these commentaries that people are leaving, and then the rest of the community can engage and see what other people are saying about or what their feedback is on certain projects. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this website? Or if we want to dig deeper, we certainly, at our next meeting, we can dig much deeper into a handful of these items. Well, I'm not 100% sure. Generally speaking, we would have the ability to, and when we do the see, click, fix, when we get to that one, there's automatic population, generally speaking, that basically you get a reply instantaneously letting you know that your comment essentially has been posted. But ultimately, I would assume that this is a very similar site that we would have the ability to go in and give commentary back to the individual.
So here, this is the city of Struthers. They solicit ideas of how they can help the city. So one gentleman said, help senior citizens. This is city of Struthers. But we'd like to bring it back. Juliana's already taken delivery of the software and uploading, kind of conforming to our design requirements, and then we'll start uploading projects.
So ultimately, I think what this site does is similar to the visioning site and survey, is it gives a voice to people that for whatever reason choose not to engage us at city council meetings, choose not to engage the council via the podium. So there's a little bit more anonymity hypothetically, or a more passive approach to engaging the city council and the city staff on people's desires for different projects within the community. So if there's no questions or comments or any questions about
Do we
this?
have any comments from the public?
This is great, but if it's just on the city website, very few people. The links on Facebook, Instagram, leading people to this. Nobody reads the agenda.
Mhm. And we appreciate that feedback, Lorenzo, and I hate to do this to you guys, but just so that we are recording the meeting. So if it is possible, because this is much more informal, and I would prefer that we continue to allow kind of the feedback. If you can just find a microphone, I know you guys have that one or the one at the podium, and then that way. Yeah, that would be nice, just because it is for the record.
Is it on?
That particular one unfortunately has multiple channels, and so normally it gets kicked to one of the channels that doesn't work.
Okay, yeah, this social media platform is great. But it's standing alone on the city website, nobody's going to see it. It needs to be, it needs to have links on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, leading people to the city website, to this platform. Otherwise, it's like the agenda center. Nobody's going to see it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm not sure how one accesses this. You're just going to click on something and you'll be able to do this, whatever the survey is. Is there any verification procedure? A log on or anything like that? The password?
At this moment, I can't answer that question. It's relatively new. I don't feel like we had that type of safeguard in place on the visioning survey that I took online, but it's been well over a year. I'm not sure if you recall, did you do that survey online by chance?
I did.
I don't
Okay.
feel like there was any, it was just the honor system, I feel like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So will you say that again, please?
With the visioning survey, you could just click into it and take it online. And while this is really new software and we don't have all of the details ironed out yet, I don't believe that at this point in time, we're not seeing where people would have to have accounts and go into it. It's just going to be a public portal, much like the agenda center itself. You can just click into the agenda right now.
Okay, my concern is with privacy. So when you go on it, you go on by name and some kind of identification. I mean, if you're getting input from Yreka citizens, how do you know that you're getting input from Yreka citizens?
Yeah, I think generally there may be a way to determine like what location hypothetically within either within city limits or not within city limits. But I also think that's a question for the council. You know, I don't know. That's an interesting, you pose an interesting question, Jan, and I guess I'm going to put the two council members on the hot seat and ask them. Does a person that lives on Schollmeyer Gulch outside of city limits, does their opinion matter less than Cindy Prohaska who lives in the city limits of Yreka?
I think that it would really just depend on what type of survey it is, because I know for the visioning survey, we're accepting the surveys, completed surveys from anyone. There's not a residency requirement. So at this point in time, I mean, this is new to me too, but off the top of my head, and this is really just off the top of my head, maybe depending on the type of information that we're seeking with the surveys, we could lock it down to residency within the city limits. Maybe some of the things we are just going to want input from people that are in the general area. Those are my thoughts right off the top of my head.
There are some tools, it's called geofencing, that allows kind of a boundary, a geographical boundary that you can utilize. So they would have to enter their address and you would geofence for that address. And if they deem to be not a valid address or continually, you do have some administrative rights in the system on that.
And I think, Ms. Osborne, you have two different kind of concerns here. One of them being, I don't know, at this point, you know, unfortunately, it seems like you get online and ultimately it's a risk of data. Quite frankly, it's just a risk getting on the internet, hypothetically, that if that's, and I think that's the intention though of the city council, is that ultimately the web-based platforms are going to be very important for engagement, because I think that's kind of, if we're listening to Mr. Love over here, that's the way of the future, is that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And then secondly, with the visioning survey that has been available online, the data does get smoothed out, because unfortunately, you are correct. There are bad actors. You know, there are people that get online and fill the data out that it's pretty obvious that they're not really, they don't have the interest, the best interest of the city, and that they're filling things out that are for whatever reason, they seem to have fun filling out information that's just pointless for us. So, but I don't think we'll ever be able to completely halt that, quite frankly.
Well, to me, it seems like it would be very possible if the survey is going to have any meaning, unless there is some kind of verification process, that it could be skewed. I mean, the same person could put in what their point of view is over and over and over, say it in different words. And then if you're tallying, well, this many people think we need, whatever the issue is, let's say it's a yes or no thing. How do you feel about this? Okay. People could say, yes, I agree. I agree. You could do that many times if there's no verification. And if there's verification, that means people can be identified. That means people can be hacked.
Mhm.
And that's a concern that I always have about when you mention social media platform. I don't do them.
Mhm.
And of course, I would have another opportunity other than to go online and do this, I would hope, whatever you
Yeah.
were doing.
I think we'll always maintain the hard copy option that you can come and just fill out the same survey with a pen, ultimately, and some paper.
Mhm.
But yeah, I understand your concerns about accessing online, but ultimately, just so you're aware as well, it's very similar to, let's say, views on YouTube. If I watch, some sports highlights or something like that, and I watch that from my phone, and I'm the only one that watches that video, and I watch it 1,000,000 times from my phone, it will say that it has been viewed one time by one person. So it's very similar in the sense that we will be able to get ISP information we won't be able to have one person 1,000,000 times from the same computer input the same data.
Mhm.
That will be dismissed.
Okay, so then the phone number is available and you would know that it's the same person.
Yeah, the program, generally speaking now, anytime you access even the visioning, we know if you've accessed it from the same ISP address. But it gets a little more complicated if you have multiple people in the household accessing, let's say you have 5 different people that want to take the survey and they take it from the same computer. Well, it ultimately, generally speaking, the answers are so disproportionately different that all of that data is used. But on the back end, that is part of the discipline of planning, is basically understanding data sets and then smoothing that data out based off of outliers and kicking certain aspects out that don't match up properly based off of coming from the same coming from the same internet address.
Okay, well, just imposing, my concern is the privacy and the accuracy that you will get if you don't really keep track of people. And I don't like to be kept track of either. But as long as there is an option for any of these things that you're going to do, a hard copy, that's fine with me. But for me personally, I don't want to put myself out there and have any chance that somebody finds out who I am and what I said.
Yeah, and I really enjoy that about you, Jan. And so if it's okay with the folks here, I would like to ask you a question, because I wish I could go back in time and the internet really didn't exist, completely honest with you. But it is definitely, if we're not doing internet-based education to the public and outreach, I think that we're going to be considered a failure. And so, but for you, what do you want? What do you want to see? What type of communication would be ideal for you? We have a number of things we're going to get to, but we have the newsletter and the utility bill. We will do yard signs when necessary. Public Works does hangers on people's doors when they're going to do some type of work in the area. What do you see as kind of the shortcomings currently right now with the communication with the city of Yreka to the public?
Well, what I see, I like to see it in the newsletter, because everybody gets the bill. I'm assuming everybody pays their water and utilities bill. So that's something I would get monthly. Now, if it's something real short notice, I would like to see it posted on the city's website, because I do use the website, or brought up at a council meeting, put it on, you can put it on the grapevine, I suppose people could see that. But to me, it's not a big issue as far, I feel like I can find out just about anything I want to know. And you're a council, a government council here. So you're not going to be doing things in secret. There'll be public notices on the agenda center and all of that. So that's, to me, it's pretty good the way it is right now.
Okay.
And I'm just, as I said, concerned about my privacy
Mhm.
and the accuracy of the data that you get with people coming kind of anonymously and doing it. Of course, somebody could turn in a hard copy several times because there's no name on those either. So,
Absolutely. So you raise two good points here. And so in a future meeting, we will have Juliana join us and talk about kind of data and how it's interpreted and kind of the issues you're talking about for accuracy of data and verifying that people aren't abusing the system. But it's safe to say from your standpoint, you just want to maintain, regardless of what we do online, that there always should be a hard copy option.
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Mayor Middleton, did you
Yes.
have any comments?
Think so. Well, I guess going back, when we talk about when people are not citizens of Yreka have an opinion about whatever it is like, I know several people from Montague, Shasta Valley, and people that live here came and gave their opinion on the housing element. So I don't think we did deny them their opportunity to speak about our housing in Yreka when they don't live in Yreka. They live in Montague, several of them. So I don't know how we would say, oh, because you live on Schumeyer, you don't have a voice, because we give the people the voice here, correct?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So I don't know how we would.
Well-
Because they, they do have a right, because they say, oh, I own a business here, I work here, and, I guess, because I could go to Montague too and talk about, or we could talk about their whatever. So I don't think we would say, oh, we don't want to hear from you, because I think they could go on to our what is it, Smart Click or whatever, to the Click Fix, and
Yes.
anybody can go on that, right?
Yes.
For the valley and say, hey, there's a big pothole coming down Fort Jones Road right before whatever. Right now, there's several of them out there, but I'm just saying. So I don't think, I guess if we'd want to hear a problem, a survey is different, of course, probably if the weather, I guess, but for getting on the website, I don't think we'd limit a voice from somebody saying there's a problem, right? Because we give them a voice up here to talk if they don't live here about our housing and whatever. So that's all I had to say, is I don't think we'd have a decline button that, oh, you don't live here,
Mhm.
So that's the only thing I was thinking.
Thank you.
Chair Baker, do you have any more questions about this software, or do you want to move on to a different item? And then do you see anything, or do you just want to go through these as they're presented?
I think that, do we have any other questions about this software specifically? Yeah, let's just move through the systems as they're listed on the agenda.
Okay.
And then after each one, we can ask questions or make comments.
Okay, and Retta, correct me if I'm wrong, but these next two, so reverse 911 and Selectron inbound and outbound calling on Springbrook. My understanding is that technically, if we wanted to right now call everybody that had a utility bill account with the city and basically just have come to the meeting at city council chambers at 6 o'clock on this date, that we currently have the ability to do so. Is that accurate?
Right. Or we can draw a geographic region in the city to outbound call.
Okay, so that is an option that I'm not sure if we may get more complaints than positive feedback on something like that, but ultimately it is something to consider. Definitely something to consider too in the emergency preparedness side of communication and emergency in general. I know that we seem to have a difficult time. It seems like because of the joint venture generally when it comes to fire and the county OES and how we engage. And I think this is an opportunity for us to basically get the word out much quicker to everybody that we have contact information for. And so just to go back to, I think something Lorenzo and Jan was kind of speaking of, but ultimately, if you're in a rental and the water is not in your name, then you're not going to get our newsletter. We don't have your phone number. It goes to the owner, or if they've chosen not to make you get onto the account yourself. So ultimately, there's no 100% sure way, I guess, to make sure everybody's getting this information, but it's an option that you guys should be aware of. So is there any other information you wanted to share on that, Retta, or it's pretty self-explanatory with that?
I was just gonna say the outbound calling was primarily emergency shut off leaks. If we have to get a hold of the, 5 blocks rapidly, it provides us, we can draw a ring and grab those numbers and do a campaign is what we call it, to try to notify people what's going on if we can't need to. That's was kind of the origins of why it's with the utility billing, is to have a kind of emergency effective way to communicate. For the most part, we try to have good numbers on file for our utility customers.
Yeah, that's great. And it's an example that we're not responsible for, but just very recently what the power went out. The power was out, not at my house. It was lunchtime. I was at my house. I came back here. Retta had texted me the power was out at City Hall. Came back around 1 o'clock. The power stayed out until about 1:15. We had called PP&L. PP&L told us that our power would be on within 15 minutes, but that on the south side of town, they would be out longer. Now, if we were the electric utility, we then could have said, this is the zone that's going to be out. And we could have automatically just dialed all those people and they would have gotten a message telling them the power is out until X time frame. So if that wasn't self-explanatory already, guys. It's so weird to have such an informal meeting. Anyway, on to C-Click Fix. If you don't mind pulling this one up as well, Retta. So this is one that my understanding is that the Public Works Director at some point in the last decade had vied to have this service and is very passive in my opinion. So it's for people that really may not want to call, may not want to come in, may not want to engage anyone.
So it's on the main website that you can get to it or from an app on your phone.
Perfect. So ultimately, if we go outside and we see one of these potholes that you mentioned, or if we see any other issue in the city, we can take a photo of it and we can upload that photo onto the application on our smartphone if we download this C-Click Fix app. And then that automatically is delivered to the system. We're notified here at City Hall. And generally speaking, we only really use this for 2 different departments, and that is Public Works and Code Enforcement. And so generally, the item comes in and either our director or one of our managers in Public Works, Matt Bray or Ben Miller, are the first line of defense. Generally speaking, we primarily get Public Works inquiries on this site. Something's not right at the park, or there's a sign that's down, somebody spray painted something somewhere, there's a pothole. Most recently, we had somebody engage the entire street of Wetzel. They wanted it chip sealed. That really isn't the intention of this, but at least we have some feedback. So our Public Works Director was able to get back to that person immediately and let them know that that's on the list for this summer to be chip sealed. Just as Cindy had asked before, this one automatically populates a response depending on what boxes are checked. So Matt has a bunch of canned responses that get kicked back out to whoever's inputting data, because you have to check different boxes on what your inquiry or what your information pertains to. And then a you can have a more formal conversation back and forth. So it just appears the city is communicating with you or an individual. So Matt has an account where then he could show it's the director of public works communicating with the individual. And in this instance, he utilized that tool to discuss the Wetzel chip seal project. So this site is used relatively well. It was in the last newsletter for the utility bill here in the last week. I believe it's been in prior utility bill newsletters. But I don't think it, so you're speaking of communication, I don't think that most people are aware of this opportunity for C-Click Fix. But Corey, you have been on council for a bit. I mean, you've been familiar with C-Click Fix or?
A little bit, but I'm getting more citizens to go there just in conversations because just, at the grocery store, running to people and they say, oh, what about this or what about that? And as I tell them, hey, I'll try to remember, but when I'm trying to grocery shop, have a life and everything else going on, work and whatever, sometimes I forget. And so I have really tried to promote this to say, hey, you go this, and they're, oh, really? And they write it down or they get on their phone and they will text me or email me, oh, great, that was easy. Thanks for letting me know that, and so I've been pushing it more and more. And I think we really need to just start pushing it more to, because we can only do so much and, it's us calling or whatever. And like you say, a lot of people don't want to pick up the phone or whatever. And this is a very easy way to reach the departments to our, city staff about a code enforcement problem or, public works. So I think we really need to maybe have it and monthly in our newsletter probably, and maybe on a Facebook run for a little bit with our, city website, just maybe campaigning it a little more because I think it's starting to catch on a little more, but I think promoting it, we need to do a little better job of just really driving home.
How do you feel about this, Ms. Baker?
I think that it is a great tool. And as a new council member, and as somebody who spent some extensive time touring the city's website,
Mhm.
I had no idea this existed until a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a really easy way for people to just the spur of the moment. Oh yeah, I just hit that pothole.
Mhm. Yes.
I'm gonna text the city or report it right now.
Mhm.
But I do have a couple of questions
Yeah.
about it though. So, and we talked about this, I don't remember, Mr. Ledbetter a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, that I did ask the question, when people report, will they get a response? And you said yes. So I really like that. What if somebody reports something that is outside the purview of public works or code enforcement? Will that be referred to the appropriate arm of city government?
That's a great question, and I can't really answer that honestly, to be
It
completely.
will.
It will. I mean, I
Ben's an admin, so he'll redirect it.
yeah, and that's the thing that I think is really important for both of you is that we don't have a PIO, a public information officer. We're 60 some FTE full-time employees. And so ultimately what happens is we have, a public works manager managing this site. And so it should get redirected. You should be, but I have to say that sometimes I think things do slip through the cracks ultimately because we don't have one individual managing this hypothetically because they have another full-time job. But for the most part, you definitely get an automatic response immediately. And generally speaking, I know this kind of goes against what you were stating, but if If it's public works and code enforcement, absolutely. If not, I'm hopeful that the admins are reaching out and trying to redirect people to actually coming in and filling out just a generalized complaint form that we can then send to the correct department.
Yeah, I really like this system. A couple of years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe it was 3 years ago, when there was some work being done on South Oregon Street. And I lived on a little side street that goes up to South Oregon, and the workers were racing their vehicles up and down in front of my house. And I came into the city hall and filed a formal complaint, but I don't ever know what happened.
Yeah.
And so this would be a great way of getting some response back. So I like it.
Yeah, and I think something for you guys to consider that's not necessarily on here is that, one of the finished products that we should shoot for is a communications policy document through this committee that we can then take to city council for approval.
Yes.
I've only really seen social media policies. I have some that I could leave with you this evening. But ultimately just a generalized communication policy on, where we post, what type of information we're posting, how often we're posting, what we're not posting, how we're not responding, because in a lot of instances, it's a mixed bag. And my personal perspective, I am in the camp of you post information online and then you leave. You do not get into a conversation online. You do not get into an argument online because it never ends positively for the person kind of defending their point. So I think having a policy is going to be really important for this group to work out.
Yes.
So
I just would add a few things on C-Clicks Fix. You could see incidents on the map that people have put in. If you want to go in and on your incident and make it private, you can make it private so that it would not display here. But if somebody's, 15 people are saying the same hydrant meter, is leaking, you would see that all these, buttons on that hydrant meter. And you can kind of also see kind of the threads on it. So,
oh, you know what? Can you stay right here?
mhm.
Okay, so here's a prime example. So streets issue, but don't click on that one, please. Yeah, streets issue, the second one down, that's Wetzel Way. Lots of potholes. Okay. Matt got on there, he communicated with this individual, and guess what? You're on the list for a brand new road essentially this summer. On the very bottom, transient occupancy tax needs to be updated. I am not sure if we have contacted that person. That's where I say that there are some issues that slip through the cracks. And I don't know if Ben has sent that over to Emily, but ultimately what that person is claiming is that really we only have a 10% transient occupancy tax. And Yreka, I think they misinterpreted that we had a 12 because that's what the county has. But there's an instance where it's kind of just a comment that those types of items are probably on some instances, they're going to slip through the cracks, unless we have somebody completely dedicated to engaging this, which is feasible if we create a policy and then budget accordingly for a position as one of their duties to do this type of engagement.
So in this one, it was resolved. It was forwarded to finance. Just City responded about the TOT. I think she meant to say the additional 2% is the T-bid here. And then the recipient thanked, we thanked them and acknowledged that it was resolved after we.
Well, thank you, Yesenia, very much. That's wonderful. And just the ability to read through what just transpired it's pretty cool sight. And I think it's not, it's something that we have to figure out how to advertise. It's a site for communication, but I think not a lot of people are familiar with it. Any other questions on this one?
Maybe magnets on the refrigerator.
You know, that's a great, honestly, that is a really good idea, is the magnets. I mean, I think we've had magnets. I feel like when I moved here 5 years ago, there was a magnet that the city gave
Yeah.
away, and I had that
Still have a
forever.
telephone.
Yes. Yes, so, yes, so it's like see-click fix magnets, right? Or magnets with just all the information, like information for communication in general. These are important phone numbers for you to have for engaging the city, city hall, YPD, police or fire chief. And then, hypothetically, those things do go a long way, quite frankly. I still use plenty of refrigerator magnets, so.
Yeah.
Yep, so do I.
We have one, how you can pay your bill.
No, thank you.
So I guess it's promoting some of the tools we have in place, is really promoting where people, our citizens could go in and really utilize this because it's great. And maybe we can, like I said, going down the road with talking about policy is probably, as you said, the public Ben has a full-time job. Maybe we have a discussion of like, there's a second person who receives this as well to see if he responded, if there's something that's not of his, within his scope of duties, that responds and saying, Ben, I took over this. I know this is not or whatever, just to back him up. Because if he's, out there working hard on our streets every day, we probably need somebody who's an admin or somebody who's in an office that is a backup person for the, to look at the system, the complaints,
Yeah, and I
to
think
make sure it is covered, because if he's out there and there's an emergency and it's laying out there, that's not effective. And it sounds like he's doing a great job, but we probably need a person that is also a second admin person that isn't out there on the, out in the field.
Yeah, and I think as we try, if we're advertising see-click fix, ultimately what's going to happen is there's going to be more, and he'll be inundated because he's got his regular
Right,
job to
exactly.
do. So
Exactly.
it is something for you guys to think about. Ultimately, pretty much updating job descriptions and where we see the management. I mean, I see it kind of in the clerk position, to be honest with you, the level of engagement. I know that we're working right now to kind of develop that opportunity for the city, because the city's never quite gotten to that point. With that position, it's just kind of has always overlapped as a secondary role for somebody else. So I personally think, similar to what Mr. Love pointed out before, is that ultimately having some video in a perfect world, this is how I see the city's website, is 90-second video clips where it is city staff explaining a certain function, how to get a sign permit. That could be a 45-second video clip. Kind of like now, if I want to change the spark plugs on my truck or something, I just go to YouTube and watch somebody else do it. And so rather than reading about things, I think people are getting more and more visual. And so how to get any type of the multitude of permits that we have, how to utilize see-click fix, if, having Matt and Willow describe see-click fix on a video that then is housed on our website, but then we can upload that video to Twitter. We can upload just that individual video. And then periodically, as part of our communications policy, we are saying we're going to upload this mix of instructional videos X times per month. That way we're just constantly reminding the public of these different tools, and to watch these, I think anything over 3 minutes is a stretch, to be honest with you. The time that people want to spend watching a video, I think anywhere from 90 seconds would be just ideal, in my opinion. And same with projects. We're going to have an RFP for Ringy Pool. And once we have that design, or we're going to have the design, we're starting the conversations behind the scene on the fire hall project. We have South Oregon happening this summer. We have the Burgess Street wastewater update happening. So having those things explained in a video where we can showcase all the different renderings that we have, and then having a voiceover and then having it housed on the website. And then we could just periodically, once a month, once every 2 weeks, depending on how active the project is, just post that on the Grapevine is kind of, in my opinion, would solve a lot of issues for us. And the same thing with C-Click Fix, just explaining how to use C-Click Fix.
I like that idea. One of the things that I did in my previous life was that I just had everything in the clerk's office was automated. So we had a lot of incoming messages, and I would just assign a staff on Mondays. You know, Nicole from 8 to 8:30, she went into those mailboxes and responded. And so I'm just tossing that out to you. I mean, I don't want to micromanage, but I mean, that worked really well for us with all of the systems that we used. It's just having assigned staff at assigned times.
And I think that's more than likely, the option for us would be the fiscal tech role, which is primarily if you come into City Hall, that's who you're seeing, folks that have the title of the fiscal tech 2 position. And then some staff accountants are on the floor as well. And so ultimately that's an option for us, I think. And even when we hopefully here add a clerk position, that could be the primary. And then we could have support on the back end with some other fiscal techs that are fulfilling this role, because ultimately it's a huge opportunity. Retta used to do absolutely every job here, and it's just it's
Yes, she
true.
did.
And it's just overwhelming because we went through some transitions here recently where, all of a sudden we lose the person that was posting everything on all of our social media sites. And there's really no, we should have had more people trained and knowledgeable and held, multiple people accountable like you're mentioning. I think that's a good idea.
And it's just let's face it, it's just a changing way of how business is done and communication in every aspect, in every business, cities, whatever business, is all right here at your fingertips. And that's how the communication is of ordering things, of, whatever. And it's just going to, well, we've seen it already. They're just, most places are directing you. Even look at the DMV. You could never used to be able to do a lot of things. Now you can go on and do a plethora of services now where they don't want you going in there and backing up their lobby, so it's just the way of the world.
Mhm.
And we just gotta keep up with the times or get ahead of it as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think there is another opportunity too. And I think that is very apt. I went home briefly before this meeting and my son has a virtual reality headset that he is now playing with. And he's 9 and his world is going to be a lot different than my world. And so over the course of the next decade, because he will be 19 in 10 years. And so, I think technology is moving so rapidly that ultimately we have to have a presence online. That's just unfortunately the way it goes. But I think that there is a missed opportunity that we've talked about behind closed doors, that even in this space, honestly, I think we need to reevaluate the decoration in this space and maybe have more of a community wall in here where people have to go out this door and they could see, we could have really nice renderings that Pace Engineering can make for multiple projects that are going on, just one sheet. And for historical relevance too, I think, it's nice. I know we both were at the county and you see all of these things when Box Canyon Dam got built, and it's really fascinating, quite frankly, but also it's a great way to notify the public in person that comes to our meetings, all the things that we do have going on. I think that's a missed opportunity for us. So.
Great.
Do you guys have any more C-Click Fix inquiries or?
No.
Okay.
Any questions?
So Retta, did you want to pull up the regular website and we can just look at, I still say Jan and I are very similar. And So for me, the most important site on the internet, if I want to know what's going on with the city of Yreka, is the Agenda Center, hands down. And it is, this one is mandated by law, so we're just not to the point. And so I give you my example. I don't have a Facebook account. I had a MySpace account, and everybody moved to Facebook in 2006, and I did not. So I don't have one. I don't have an Instagram account. I don't have a TikTok account. So I can see what I can see, and normally I get kicked off of those sites when I'm trying to look at accessing maybe even a menu. Everybody has gone to these private
Bless you.
sites rather than just their own website. I'm assuming because at some point it was inexpensive to do that, but I'm a traditionalist and I like to go to the website of whatever business I'm going to engage in this instance, the city of Yreka site, the Agenda Center. That is where we are mandated by law to post certain information within a very specified time frame to a meeting. This meeting, ad hoc committee meetings, it's only 24 hours in advance. Regular city council meetings are 72 hours. That's why Retta is always scrambling and running to get agendas out by the end of Friday for meetings that happen on Tuesday. But this, for lack of better terminology, is not sexy at all. This website and the Agenda Center, I understand why people just don't ever go to this site, or it's confusing to even get to this site. So,
And there's two ways. You can go to the calendar also and get the agenda.
After looking at some other, while you're doing that, after looking at some other cities, and I'll pull some others I've been kind of looking at, our site is really complicated. I think after looking at some others where they just have very simple boxes where they have community events, city council, it's like right at the bottom of everything, you just click and it's very visual. It's not like going and trying to find like under government and you got to go move over and find it. I find ours very difficult after looking at bigger cities and other places where everything's kind of at the bottom and it's like an icon you click on, it'll say like city council, you click on it, then everything's right there. It's not like, boxed out. So I find our site a little complicated for a small town. And I'll pull some up. We can look at them some other time, whatever.
yeah,
Our next
so
meeting or whatever.
yeah, absolutely. And so there's a great example of, let's imagine through this process. And I know Retta is not going to want to hear this, but let's just imagine
Plug your
for a
ears, Retta.
moment. Let's just imagine through this process, you guys say, you know what, we need to update the website, or you guys want a different website. Well, with Citizen Lab, what we would do is maybe we would come up with 5 sites that we like. What are 5 different agency sites within the United States that we like? And then we could take those 5 sites and we could poll the community. And then the community can make that decision ultimately. And then we can always fall back on that, basically it's definitely more of a think tank mentality and people had their opportunity to have their say. So.
What are the ones that are on it mostly?
And this site is completely configurable. So during a phase of this was websites were too busy with boxes and content. And so the philosophy when we implemented this about 4 years ago was to simplify and go with, the boxes at the bottom, but it is completely configurable. So
Yeah.
style wise,
You can change
exactly,
it.
get feedback from public engagement.
Yeah. And everything changes
Mhm.
constantly. So trial and error, I think it is with a lot of places, probably.
Yeah. And is there
But there's
forgive me for not knowing this, Retta, but is there a link to the videos of the city council meetings on here?
Yes, so again, there's 3 places to get to the agendas. We saw in the calendar, we saw in the drop down for government, and then there's a hot button for agendas. So right there's 3. So I'm gonna do this hot button. Where it has a TV will be the video. And then they'll start playing.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
So I think personally that the website, in my opinion, is the most important tool on the back end.
Mhm.
And I think that we can utilize Instagram and Facebook and Twitter in a more clever way to drive people to that website.
Right.
So in my perfect world, I think the front page of our website would be filled right off the bat with just current projects. You would have to scroll down to get to, or you can have all those hot buttons on the bottom, but you would immediately know about the multitude of projects and maybe even a link, quite frankly, to the major project that's currently happening by Caltrans on Highway 3. So
And then also on the buttons here, you can come in and have contacts right away. You talked about the magnet. So that's the engage with us.
That's what one of those cities had, is that they had current city projects. It had community events. So it'd be like, and they would like, if the current event would coming up would be like, say, Gold Rush Days, it's a flash, and you click on and have the dates, and then you click on it. It was this every like box you just click on, it would list the events. It would say current projects, and you click on it, it'd be like Oregon Street. It just lists them, and it was this very no, if I have to remember what city it was, I think I wrote it down. It was just very user friendly, and it was like just right when you looked at it, boom, right in your face of like, oh, they're doing something over there. It was like jumping out. And so
Yeah.
that's what I liked, is like you can really see it. It was like you weren't like scrambling or searching. It was like boom right there.
yeah, and our site is interactive, but it is also kind of difficult because
Navigate.
as
Mhm.
like you just pointed out, it's like it's not intuitive that you just press on that little TV, and it's so small that it's kind of hard to tell that is where you go to watch the video of the city council meeting. So I think that there's certainly opportunity to utilize this site in a more kind of friendly manner, or more kind of what appears to be user friendly with showcasing the projects. Well, really what comes to my mind is that Night of Lights that transpired last year. There's this really beautiful minute-long footage that
Mhm.
really we should have had on our site
yeah.
for like a month or 2 months
Right.
after the event. That should have been like or going into next holiday season. That should be on the front page of our site, just celebrating that that it's coming back around again, because it was a very clean marketing video, in my opinion. It had the sign or the giant letters that were in different colors and changed colors that said Yreka. So
So the
Yeah.
three, oh, sorry.
Oh.
I was say the three out here with us tonight. Do you guys think are, you just shake your head, yes or no, or maybe Jan and Lorenzo and Don Marie, do you think our site's user friendly? Jan? Do you think our site's user friendly? So our website, do you think it's user friendly for you? Okay. So for you. Okay. Okay. Mhm. Okay. To navigate. So that's what I thought. My thoughts actually. Okay. Great. Thank you guys.
And just another aspect of the website, and this is hard-learned experience, is that it's awesome and it's absolutely necessary to have an updated website, but you have to have the dedicated personnel to update it. That's, I mean, and it takes a lot more time than anybody thinks that it does. I mean, that little
Oh,
button that
yeah.
you click on that comes up is swell, but it could represent hours and hours and hours of work. So I just want to throw that out to you because I think along with taking a look at some changes that we want to make, we also need to be really cognizant of the personnel that it's going to take to do it. Because it's just the way that the world is today.
Absolutely, and that's a reality, unfortunately, for pretty much everybody in Siskiyou County at these government agencies, is that we don't have 1,000 full-time employees, and we can't rationalize a communications department. We can't rationalize an IT department. We have to outsource for this stuff, and ultimately, when you don't have somebody necessarily in-house, unfortunately, you're kind of left with somebody wearing multiple hats to manage. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, I believe everybody is pretty familiar. Primarily, we're posting on Facebook. Unless people have more questions about the website, or is there anything else, Retta, you feel that we missed on the website that you want to talk about?
Just that citizens can pay online from a website page launch into the payment portal. If y'all ever done that. And that is beneficial, and they can we also have an IVR system where they can call in and pay on the phone. And IVR is interactive voice response system on that. And like we said, see click fix, employment opportunities, vendors if they want to pay their motel tax, agendas and minutes that we already touched on. That was all.
Yeah, Munica, I mean, the law of the city, pretty much all information is on here. It's a lot of information, so it can feel overwhelming to kind of work this, and it does have kind of that, dated feel, as Lorenzo pointed out, but my goodness, it's just things move so fastly in this discipline. I think that just an easy way to spruce this up is more interactive videos right off the bat, right up front, showcasing what we have going on.
Cool.
So ultimately right now, I think if you're following us on Facebook or you're watching the Grapevine, you should be seeing our staff accountant, Kayla, is managing. We're currently kind of following along with the Yreka Fire Safe Council, and Jay Perkins is sending out information. And then we are packaging that information and posting about fire safety going into summer. And so I think this is relatively self-explanatory. I think most people do have a Facebook. I don't, but I'm relatively familiar with engaging the site. So I'm not sure. I think this goes into the communications policy and a lot of maybe a social media aspect of this policy on how we engage the site, if we engage after we post, how often we should be posting, what is inappropriate material to be posting, do we repost other agencies, do we repost other people's stuff, what are the priorities for posting. If it were left up to me, I think just a general idea of, hey, we're going to post X number of projects every single month. We're going to post see, click, fix on a weekly basis, just reminding people of what's going on. We're not going to engage the community that is going to ultimately, even if we turned off comments, someone can just repost us and then comments were going to happen underneath. And it's wild because it doesn't feel like I've been out of college that long, but now you can get a PhD in social media essentially for government agencies and how they engage the public. And I think that people are still learning a lot, but ultimately what I've seen play out online has not been very positive for an agency that wants to get into an argument with an individual. So Facebook really is the site that we primarily use, especially since I've been here. I've never asked anyone to tweet anything out. I believe we do have a Twitter site.
But I think you can also, there's a way, we just need to find out, you can link. Actually, there's a way you can link you can link the YouTube videos, the Facebook, Twitter all in one. So when you post on one, it feeds to every single one. So I know in real estate when I was with the company in Sacramento, if I would post on my Facebook page there, it went to my YouTube account, it went to my Twitter. So it'd be the same post, but it would feed to all three. So you're not going into every one and logging in. It just blasts to every single social media account. And that's the way to do it is definitely is to,
We had that for a while and it just hadn't been maintained, I think.
yeah. So
That's probably doing a budget.
Yeah. but if we're moving forward and thinking we're going to have those, then it's very easy to, if someone's posting on Facebook, to have it feed to the YouTube and feed to Twitter.
Another thing I wanted to kind of point out is that within the policy, something for you guys to consider is how many sites should the city have for Facebook? Because ultimately, at one point, I think you had the city, you have the fire department, and you have the police department. And then we even had at some point before I got on here, the animal control officer had their own ability to post items. And so you just get into a broader question. There's a lack of control when that happens over what's getting posted. And ultimately, is the fire department not the city? Is it one unified voice? Is the police department not also just City Hall? Or I can understand that you probably do want that separation where you have kind of your information coming from your fire chief and then your information coming from your police chief, and then just general news about the city coming from the city. But something to consider within the policy is how many different sites do you actually want to allow to happen? So.
Yeah. I mean, every city I think has their, fire department has one, their police department, the city itself, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It definitely is for us, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that everywhere, but also know that like at the fire department, they wouldn't post anything. They would, and this is where it comes into say maybe this is a future position for somebody here at the city, is so if Jerry wanted to post something, he would, Chief Lemus, I'm sorry, he would send it over to somebody here at staff and they would post for the city, the fire department. So you're not having somebody on the fire department saying, oh, get on here and post, and get on there and post something. It's actually a staff person who manages, each site. Like not the police department, they have their own person, but because they have a communications person, but like the fire department, animal control, and say code enforcement, they wouldn't be doing that. It'd be the person who runs the city site,
Yes.
social media.
It actually, we haven't even engaged this, but I know that this has come up just with within the policy too, and maybe it's more code of conduct policy because we're talking of a separation between elected officials versus policy for the staff. But something for you to consider is what type of engagement you want to allow other elected officials to be making online as a representative, as an elected official. Ultimately, that's really up to you guys. But I think at the first city manager conference I went to, it was a mixed bag there as well, where there was an elected official in a large city who would go around taking photos of himself with every crane that was in the city, and then congratulate himself on that he made that happen. And ultimately, some of those projects had nothing to do with the city, and so it just was a bad look. But we don't really have that problem here, to my understanding, but it is something to consider that ultimately it's probably a good idea to, in the code of conduct policy meetings that we'll eventually pick up again, have a social media policy.
Mhm, yeah. Okay.
Are you okay, Miss Baker, if we move on to YouTube?
I
I was just gonna add a couple of
Yeah.
clarifications on what Jason added, and that's, so we are a verified government agency. We are a verified Facebook account. We have 3 verified pages. We didn't claim the fire department page. It's still a non-verified account because of its volunteer nature of that. So really, at this point, the fire department would come in and their association page would be the nonprofit part of that, now that they're 401. Their nonprofit 501, excuse me, nonprofit status has been established. But it is possible where we tried to claim all the names people could use, but somebody could fictitiously try to steal the identity of the city of Yreka. It happens other places and misrepresent the city. But once you catch wind of that, you can report it to Facebook and they can shut it down if they're misrepresenting your organization as a verified, because we are the verified organization. I just was gonna point that out, and then also we can control users and their administrative rights on the business account. So
Okay,
just
great.
there are some. It's not the Wild West. It's
Yeah.
just there are some, and every time I go into Meta, into the business manager, they've added more and more controls, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the menus just got grown and gotten larger. So
Yeah.
just a few notes on that.
Thank you, Retta. That's good information, actually.
So we'll move on to
Yeah,
YouTube. And
let's
if,
get off the doggy page. I'll be trying to get another dog. Let's move on from that page.
so
Let's move on from that page.
if you don't mind, can you go to the Siskiyou Media Council YouTube page when you get a chance, Retta? And so
See, the
that's
doggies break
who
my heart.
posts our meeting. So when you do click on that little TV, then it takes you to YouTube, and it's the Siskiyou Media Council site. But they also have some other videos that they've done. The Siskiyou Media Council has been resurrected. They kind of fell off, from my understanding. They were based at the COS campus in Weed. They are now based at the COS Extension campus here in town. And there are some videos that they did with a green screen for the water users. And so they do like Dunsmuir, Mount Shasta, Weed, those city council meetings, our city council meetings. But is there anything on there that's not a city council meeting that we can just briefly look at that generally they had like Richard Marshall and Jerry Bacigalupi sitting in front of a green screen talking? That right there on the right. Yes. So regardless of the information, that's irrelevant, really. It just the concept of this. And how long is this video, Retta? Is it like 3 minutes? or-
Thank you for joining us today, folks. I'm Richard Marshall,
Okay,
President of
11
Siskiyou
minutes.
County.
So they're in front of a green screen. To me, this is a real polished look, quite frankly, that we could do. I mean, this is something that if you guys are considering, when I talk about doing these little 90-second vignette videos, you could do that on PowerPoint. You don't need to, unless we wanted to showcase an individual staff member, but this is another option for what I'm calling the FDR fireside chat option, where we can have the State of the Union address, right? You can have, whether that be city council or city staff. I think it would be overwhelming to do too many of these videos, but this would be another opportunity to give an update on what is happening. And actually, Retta, you have a really good description of this, and you reference the radio station.
Oh, if any of you ever saw Herman on the Hill, he would always do a little YouTube of ski conditions. It'd be about 30 seconds, but why you want to get up there, what they're cooking at the lodge or something, just kind of like a real quick blurb to say, yeah, I should go up to Mount Ashland today. And it was called Herman on the Hill. If anybody, anyway, he was great at it. He was a personality in himself, and you just wanted to catch Herman on the Hill regardless. Because he always had something clever, enticing you to get up there and go skiing.
Yeah, so this is another option. As Siskiyou Media Council, continues to build up and they attempt to get students engaged and working in the studio essentially, that this is an option to consider to have kind of a polished product, and really one that I kind of think as we move forward, just to have vignettes of elected city council members, that instead of just the picture, it could be an interview that lasts 90 seconds that is, I'm, newly elected or re-elected, and this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is my history and my connection to the town, rather than just your photograph. That's another option for us as well. So I'm not sure how you guys feel about this. We're just trying to present to you all the different tools that we're aware of that we have access to. So
I contracted with Siskiyou Media Council and contracted for a certain number of videos that they produced for me every year. And it was very, very slick. It was really nice. And I used it, of course, for, voting information, and we got a lot of views on it. So
that's good to know. And I also think that as we continue to see that organization grow, there's an opportunity if they can get some of the students involved, that ultimately I think there's been a big desire to see an improvement here at city council meetings and how our videos come across, where we can make upgrades technically that we can have multiple cameras. And so if Jan came up to speak and started speaking, the camera would switch so that it was picking up the person at the podium, and then maybe more framing on city council members. Because right now I know that we get that complaint that people have a hard time hearing, and then that people are just kind of like, if the camera's too far away, they don't know who is speaking a lot of the time. So that's something that we will kind of consider, that level of an upgrade or just a general upgrade through the ADA improvement that we're planning on doing to this space. But just another thing to consider.
I think that's a great idea, but can we get those cameras that have the filters that make you look 20 years younger and 30 pounds lighter?
Yes, we can. Everybody will be a
50.
cat. Yeah, we'll just be a flower.
We just need to tell the high school kids this is a new way of, TikTok. Because this is an old version, but we'll say this is the new and upcoming way of TikTok, and we'll get them up there.
That's what, I do think that ultimately now, when I did audio visual in high school, you were walking around with the camera and you were editing. And quite frankly, now you don't need any of that. In my opinion, you need a computer and you need a smartphone. And then people are turning into whether you agree or disagree, you're turning into your own brand, where you are managing your own Instagram site or YouTube site and attempting to get views. And so I think that it wouldn't take much to get Siskiyou Media Council to spur some engagement with, in my opinion, that's where COS should be moving, is to really exploit this opportunity where you can actually have a general ed class and audio visual where all you need is a computer to do editing and your phone. So
Yeah.
So after YouTube, we just get down to some very general stuff. And so, flyers, obviously that's a real old school mentality, an old school way. We have the flyers for the visioning, the meeting workshop that's going to happen on the 25th at the community center. So when you walk into City Hall and you go engage anybody at the counter, you're going to see a flyer right there discussing that. Generally, we'll put other flyers in that same location. We have the bill inserts in the utility bill. I've brought some examples. Jasenia gave me some examples of the last, 6 or so utility bills here, or newsletters within the utility bill, if anybody would like to take a look at them. I don't have the latest one that just went out that had C-Click Fix in there, but just a cursory look here. Public Works excited to announce major infrastructure upgrades. So this talks about the Burgess Street projects. Parks and reservations, just kind of explaining renting out the parks. Voluntary watering schedule, I think. So talking about based off of your address, when we would like to see you voluntarily water your property. You know, preparing for winter with your pipes. Storm drain management, carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors. Emergency water regulations that were in effect in August. When we're hiring, we generally will look to educate the public on that as well. Looks like we had city council and planning commission schedules posted in this particular newsletter. I believe that, quite frankly, this is our most successful outreach. If I'm being completely honest with you, I just printed these on my printer with regular paper, but the one that comes in the utility bill is really nice glossy stock.
Yeah.
I always read it and I know what's going on. It's just
Me
as
too.
yeah, it's real simple read. And when I did not work here, I read it then too. It was just a really, I just think it's been very successful in my opinion, but it is not 100% of the population, because not 100% of the people that live in town receive a bill, because somebody else generally might be paying it. But overwhelmingly, the majority of people do get this.
Can someone pay my bill and I still get the newsletter? I guess someone pay my bill and then I still get the newsletter.
Yeah. So yeah, the one we did here, May of 2022, this had the Yreka pavement rehab project, the Main Street water improvement project, and the water supply and storage improvement projects, and then also the East Lenox Street water line replacement improvement project. So this was just 100% public works projects enlightening the community. But unfortunately, this is in the garbage now, and it's not online. It's not like a video. It's not just easily acceptable that we're just reposting that particular project and reminding people, because these projects are still in motion. They're not completed. So yeah, other than that, I mean, we have some very general things. I mean, word of mouth, and then even maybe within the code of conduct, just discussing how, getting the same information coming out of all elected officials' mouths to the public about different events. Are we advertising the visioning the visioning meeting that's happening on the 25th? What are the talking points? And maybe that's more of within the communications policy, giving the city council talking points, maybe just giving you guys a monthly or quarterly list of talking points so that you're well aware and can answer or direct people in certain areas on what's going on with the city.
I know I handed out some, I take a coffee break and there's a group of 2 tables actually every day at Starbucks. And I handed them all, they always ask me what's going on, this and that. And I handed them a flyer of the meeting on the 25th, and then also Starbucks put it on their bulletin board. It's amazing how many people do look at bulletin boards still around the businesses.
Oh, yeah, and I've done the same thing
Yeah.
with the visioning,
So
the visioning statement flyer.
Yeah.
they look at them. So
Yeah, and our planning director does that. She did spend time, I'm not sure if it was Friday or earlier this week, but she walked up and down Minor and Broadway and went into every business that was open, gave them the flyer. And I know that I've seen it over at the smoked tomato pie. I think that they used to have the flyer for visioning. I know Zephyr is holding up the flyer right now for the meeting on the 25th. And that goes a long way, in my opinion, as well. Just basically hitting the pavement.
you still don't
So-
let go of the basics. I know Lorenzo's gonna talk. You don't let go of the basics. As to Jan was speaking, she wants to do a hard copy. Even though we're progressing into a online and digital world of everything's right there, there's some things you still do the old school basics.
I like old school.
Just like in real estate, a lot of people started getting away from direct mailers, and now they're saying the people that are starting to do the direct mailers again, because people got out of it, are starting to get for business now. because I don't know, it's coming back again for some people. Some people refuse, but they said that's still a number one marketing is to do a direct mailer. It's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. We had a question or a comment.
You mentioned renters don't see this. I lived in a duplex for 25 years. I never saw one of these. Yet, so some of the previous councils viewed this as the be all end all communication. If this was on Facebook, on the city Facebook page, shareable to other Facebook pages, a lot more people would see it.
That's a good point, and that is a very simple fix.
Yeah.
So we can ultimately just add that into when we do these newsletters. Generally, they're quarterly. We can just immediately post the newsletter on the Grapevine.
Or the link to click on.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I can appreciate that. And just the archive history is online on the website if you want to go back.
So then we talked, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't know who we were going to. I was looking.
Oh, just yard signs. I know Juliana has done a really nice job. I had some signs up. I think you had a sign up when the general plan originally kicked off to get people to driving people to do the visioning survey. We're going to continue to utilize that opportunity. Zoom, we're sticking with Zoom. I think the council wants to maintain Zoom. I know some agencies have stopped. I believe the county may have stopped based off of what they told us from the COC. That was very bizarre, but I'm not sure if you can still get on. Maybe the supervisor meetings are still on Zoom, but Shasta County, they're not, so they've just, so that is a tool that we utilize, right? That ultimately you can just get on Zoom and watch the meeting from anywhere in the world if you wanted to engage city council. So we're going to maintain that. Town halls, though, I think that you had a question about this, Ms. Baker, as far as possibly adding more town halls, adding town halls in general, adding kind of feedback, or I'd like to see maybe building it into the general calendar that you guys approve on an annual basis, and maybe even into the code of conduct for the council, is that you're committed for X number of workshops or town halls that really are just extremely general, that have no topics other than public comment and engagement.
Right. Yeah.
And another one I have been thinking about too, I know we meet generally, I meet once a week with most of you, but another opportunity we've never discussed is that you could do office hours. We can have under the description of each council member, if you wanted to do office hours, you could say, I'll be available between 2 and 4 every Thursday in council chambers if you wanted to come talk to me, although I'm sure you're inundated when you just walk out of your house.
I like that idea because I'm sure that all of the council members meet with a lot of the public, and my favorite go-to place is Zephyrs.
Yes, me too.
But sometimes it would be
Same.
just nice. Yeah, it would be nice to just be able to utilize the chambers to meet with people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea.
So that's definitely an option.
Yeah. But I really like the idea of just regularly scheduled town hall meetings. I just found them invaluable. And then the other thing that I brought up to you, Mr. Ledbetter, was the possibility of a state of the city event every year, where we kind of get to review everything that we've accomplished the previous year, and maybe have a little bit of fun with it as well.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I really would like to see that.
I think that's a great idea. And I think that we, when you exit the private sector and you enter into public life, as you did for the multitude of your career, It's nice to take a moment and celebrate the wins of the year and to look ahead on the things that are high priorities of the future. So right now, if we were to have that today, we could talk about, the Highway 3 project and the requirements for Public Works to get in there and do all the work they did on the sewer and water system. And that's a big win. And now I know it's a headache for people out there. That's what's happening with Caltrans, but looking forward, we have Ringy Pool RFP going to be going out by July. We have a fire hall. It's just an opportunity to advertise to the public all the things that we're working on that they may not be aware about. So I agree with you. I'd love to see that built into, we already know every single year when we're going to do the state of the city address.
Yeah.
And also I would like to see, I know this is kind of going, well, not really, is talk about community involvement and public outreach is really, and I know there's been transition at the police department, but I also know that they have coffee with a cop and then they select two, council members because of the Brown Act and everything. When you come talk business, you socialize with the police chief and, a couple police officers and you rotate and two council members go and the mayor and our council members and you go and you do that as well. Because I think, people want to have that sense of community and they do want to hear from our police chief and see them and come up and shake their hand and have a cup of coffee and then talk with a council member as well outside of here. A lot of people don't want to come here, but it's very successful in other places. But I think bringing that back is because they had it a couple times. I don't know if Chief Gilman has had it, but they've had it with the previous chief before. And it was very successful. And and they rotated the coffee shops and it was great. So I'd like to see that come back. And then so there's things we could do and do better and just make a presence and not be I want people to know like who's because even it was all who's on the council, and that's sad. I don't want people to not know who our council members are or who our city manager is, or who our police chief is now. And
my kind of thought is there's an opportunity here for like a January, February meeting at the community theater that is a state of the city address and also just like a cocktail party essentially, where maybe we can have a taco truck or we can have food available and you can
Absolutely.
you can come hear what's happening in the city. And then after that, we kind of like mandated all department heads are there and we're there to engage the public between 6 and 9 p.m. or something like that, where it's 1 hour of here's everything that's going on. And then after that, it's just if you're really interested in public works, well, there's Matt Bray and you can go talk to him. And or if you're really interested in the police department, there's the chief and the lieutenant, and there's the having the fire chief there. I think we might, especially with food, and to make it more of a a fun event. I think we would probably have a lot of people engaged in coming to our theater and or our community center to maybe going into the theater and listening to what's going on and then transitioning into the community center to kind of hobnob and ask questions of staff and elected officials. But
yeah.
What's that? The city's buying. That's right.
We'll have a yard sale.
And so I think if you don't mind, Miss Baker, I was going to jump to 5B, and I don't know if you wanted to.
Yes, please
Okay.
do.
Ultimately, we do believe that this is best served over the course of many meetings. Nothing's going to be really solved in one meeting for sure. So that was just a review. We do have some action items that we would like you guys to consider. And that is the development of a mission statement and objectives and timeline of deliverables. So city staff, discuss with committee members, a mission statement, goals and objectives for the committee, along with the measurable desired outcomes. So I think in order to cater the next meeting, if we can have some discussion over what you'd like to see either at the next meeting or what you want the goals to be of this, the outcome, I think we've kind of decided we'd like a policy, a communications policy. And I think, I think you said you'd like to never hear that somebody didn't hear about something inevitably, right? So you just would like to see improved communication. And how do we measure that communication? I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. We could start
It's
with,
not what you're looking for, but I mean, a big part too, and I know there was other people advocate saying, be here, is that's what we need, is we need more people sitting in our seats. So when people say, well, I didn't know that was going on, it's like, well, Lorenzo's pointed it out, you should have been there, So I know that's not what
no,
I'm looking
that's,
for, but that's what.
no, that is actually what we're looking for. So that would be a measure. That'd
Yeah.
be measured, a desired measured outcome would
Yeah.
be.
Increase
Mhm.
attendance at city council meetings.
Exactly.
So I guess it is. Here I thought it was off track, but yeah, because I would like to see, just not on a hot button issue when we have it packed and people are rallying people to get in here. I think every meeting should be just important for the people who are passionate about something. I think they should be just as passionate on, I know everybody can't make every single meeting, but I think hopefully they have enough passion and drive and care about their city to come at other times.
Yeah, and I do think that kind of the state of the city address and kind of coffee with a cop idea, like molding that into one. I mean, that would be very measured ultimately.
Yes.
How much, the level of investment to get all of staff there to have some type of food available. Measuring, there's 300 and some odd seats within that theater. We should be striving to pack the house ultimately.
Yeah.
So that is a good one. So that's a long-term goal, or for the finished product. I think another one is that we would like a communications policy
Yes.
through this. What about just in general terms, because we have a million things going on at the city, how often would you like to meet for this ad hoc committee?
One thing before we get to that, also, I want to see consistency, and so something is like needs to be posted right away, not a lag. You and I talked about that before when our previous person was there, and something didn't get posted. It was something, it was the warming shelter, I think, when it
Yes.
wasn't posted and they got lapsed. So I want to make sure we are consistent and on top of something that if needs to go out right away, be posted and not lagging 2 hours before the event starts or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we were in a transition. That's no excuse, but there was no backup. That's what we're talking about. How do we get better at having a backup person? Because at that time, when that was going through a transition of the person who did that, we didn't have somebody to say, oh, we better get on this. And so that's what I guess I'm kind of talking about is the.
And I think that would be perfect for the policy,
Okay, cool.
essentially.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That type of information, exactly what we
Awesome.
want. So,
So,
Going back
I
to-
would really like to see us meet monthly,
Yeah. That's what I was like.
and with the idea of a goal of having a policy to present to the city council this time next year in May of 2024. I know that sounds,
No, that is a
But-
very smart timeline because we have city council meetings, right? 2 a
Yeah.
month. We have the workshops for general plan and we have all these other things going on that on a month, that's 12, that's 11 meetings, maybe 10 more meetings and we have a
Yeah.
policy. So
and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there's lots of
Right.
jurisdictions that have communications policies that we can, utilize.
yes, absolutely.
So,
I have a question.
For sure.
The best way to keep attention is constant presence. So we haven't had a meeting, we haven't had a planning commission meeting. There's a planning commissioner that should have been up for a vote, where that, staying current, even if we don't have anything to actually vote on, we can talk about all the stuff that the city's doing on a regular, every first, third Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think that can come through the policy or it can come through if there is a decision on workshopping that ultimately spreading those out or the state of the city address, if that's once a year or twice a year, building that into an annual calendar. So it's not even, you can know in December that there's going to be that meeting in July on that date. And it's not a shock. It's not 24 hours before it's getting posted. So for next meeting, would it be apt to learn more about Citizen Lab? Would it be apt to have comms policy examples from other locations? Do you want to dig into one of the mediums that we're talking about, see more examples there? How would you like to curate the next agenda?
So I would like to see policies from other jurisdictions for us to start evaluating, and then yeah, and I would like to see more information about the new system that the planning director has purchased. A little bit more, just a little bit more detail of,
The Spring Brick system.
yes.
Yes.
Citizen Lab.
Oh,
And-
Citizen.
yes.
Oh, okay. What was Spring
And
Brick? Oh, that was something
then
different.
C-Clicks Fix, as far as these are the processes. Because my concern is that we as a committee, I mean, the sky is the limit, really, but I think that we need to keep it down to earth too, where, we'd like to see all these things happen, but if we don't have the staff, I mean, I would just like you to be very real with us about what we're capable of doing
Mhm,
right now.
absolutely.
The vision, but a realistic vision.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I
Yeah,
really,
and-
I'm sorry, that's why I really like these little 90-second videos. There may be some investment of time that has to be made up front, but on a project, that was in the newsletter here in May of 22, we're telling people about some of the different projects that haven't necessarily started, and so if there's just a 90-second video that's available and we can just repost that video a million times, and it's going to be utilized for 3 to 5 years as the project completes on paper, a shovel is in the ground, and then there's a completed actual project. So I think that would be relatively easy. And you are correct. We're very cognizant over how much engagement and staff time it's going to take to engage some of these things. So what I'll do is we'll have Juliana present on Citizen Lab, and then we'll have Matt here to walk through C-Click Fix, and then we'll bring comms policy and social media policy examples from other jurisdictions. And if that's okay, that's probably a decent meeting.
And that meeting, we should have a lot of people here because that's gonna be a lot of information that people can learn from about.
Well, that is the
Those are three
question.
big things, really.
That's the question to you guys. We are just continuing to do the normal channels, right? The agenda center. We can post this on the Grapevine that it's going to happen if you'd like us to do that. We're having a meeting about better communication, and we're making decisions that will affect how we then communicate to ask people to come to these meetings. And so if you have some other alternative on how we do that now, we can implement that. But I'm not sure.
I don't know how I think we've been trying for a long time.
Reverse 911.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's call everybody. It's like, come on down.
yeah. And we're like, oh, no, we're out of capacity. Sorry. We're going to move this.
Well, you know what? We could beta test that and see how many complaints we get, right?
know.
For the reverse 911 calls. Yeah, come on down to the communications meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Why did I get this phone
Yeah.
call? Yeah.
And I guess it's really, outreach. I mean, a lot falls on us too, as elected officials, to really pick up and talk to friends and constituents to say, hey, are you going to be available this night? I mean, I guess, I'm guilty of not doing that. I talk to friends, but I don't call and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is really your city. This is going to really affect how, communicate. I mean, that's probably what we can ask the city council members all sitting here to say, hey, call 10 people. That's a start. I mean, right?
Mhm.
If we even get one person out of, or two people out of each of us, that's 10 people. It's better than
Yeah.
2 people remaining here. And we appreciate you guys coming,
So do we, just forgive me, please, because it's late and I've had a long day of handling a 9-month-old. So
Mhm.
do are the agendas currently posted on Facebook?
I think we're just posting, Retta, when you post the agenda, it's going on the agenda center. Are we posting that immediately? I know that Mr. Love is generally posting our,
There was a function there that was going through finance. But I can go ahead and post on Facebook.
So,
There was a delegate that it was passing through.
okay.
yeah, because it would be great to post these meetings on Facebook. The only thing that I would caution the city about starting to post the agendas for city council meetings on Facebook, might want to just take some time to really think that through, only because once you start, it's just got to be consistent.
Mhm.
So it sounds like a relatively small thing, but the one time that we miss something that's not posted, then we're gonna be criticized. And not that, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we just need to, once we start, we just need to be consistent. So staff time is the thing that I really am concerned about.
I think on this, it shouldn't be an issue to make a posting on Facebook, and ultimately, I think maybe we would utilize Cindy, quite frankly, working with Retta. So tomorrow would be, we'll wait on the regular council meetings, if I'm reading that correctly, and we'll wait for that to come through the comms policy, because the
Yes.
comms policy will dictate within X time frame, or when the agenda posts, it posts on the agenda center and it posts on this, a media page. But for these meetings, if I'm inferring correctly, all of them will get posted on the Grapevine, and we can repost and post, and as soon as we can post it as many times as people want. But is there a particular, should we just say 1 month from today on a Thursday? Oh, I don't know if are we in the second Thursday of the month? Yes, so should we assume that the second Thursday in June, which is June 8th, are we ready to make that commitment, or do we just want to say monthly meeting and we'll get back to people's calendars?
At the beginning of June is going to be a really busy time for people, so let's just say a month.
Okay,
And we'll set a specific time.
okay.
How does that sound, Corey?
Well, isn't that Thursday night would be graduation night for many elementary and junior high, and Saturday, that Saturday is the high school graduation.
Yeah.
Gold Rush Days is that weekend, so. So yeah, we probably don't want to do it that Thursday night.
So, no, let's have the meeting then.
I don't know. I mean, that is the thing, is like, we will then just say it is a monthly meeting, and
And we-
ultimately we will work
fit
behind the
in
scenes to determine
A date.
when that is.
I think
So,
6 o'clock is fine, just the date, yeah.
Yeah, once a month, that should work.
Yeah,
okay.
but I think
so
6 o'clock's perfect, don't you?
Mhm.
I think we'll just, we'll figure it out with both of you on Fridays when we meet with you, so.
Okay.
I think that's, unless anybody has anything else.
So with that, I'm just gonna hand it back to you because it looks like the other
Okay.
two items, I don't even.
Oh, I don't
they
think we
look
do.
like they're-
I think it's like, we're not gonna have any manager or staff reports. That'll be for Tuesday, correct? You don't have any report for anybody, do you?
No, we just have this template that we use for all meetings. And
Yeah.
we
Oh, okay,
leave it
okay.
just in case anybody does want to make a statement. So,
All right, well, I think this was thanks for chairing it, taking the lead on it. And I think it was great information, and thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. And with that, we'll adjourn and have a good evening.